Hi everybody, and welcome to another video talk. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's not really HR related, but I think it's important for both employees and employers that need to know this stuff. Now, you know that I normally speak about things that relate to employment, employees, leadership, those sorts of things, teamwork, but this time I'm going to be talking about something that isn't so far removed from the workplace. And it's not something that is readily discussed in serious fashion in the media and on daily briefings from our government officials. There is mention of it, but I thought I'd spend some time today to talk about it because it is so important, and that is domestic violence. So I've heard things, kind of jokes about being at home with your spouse or your partner, and how does that feel? And, after a while, do you get sick of one another? But in all seriousness, domestic violence tends to increase when there are catastrophic situations such as hurricanes. So what we have seen is that the number of calls that are made to the police, domestic violence hotlines, crisis lines, those sorts of things have gone up anywhere from 18% to about 30%. So we already have some numbers coming in the first couple of weeks with stay-at-home orders in other countries. That number has increased, sometimes dramatically. So in Spain, that number has increased by about 20%, in France, about 32%, and in China, 50%. That's 50%. One of the experts, if you will, in human behavior is Google. And with Google, they have seen its search numbers about domestic violence increase by about 75%. So this is pretty alarming, and that's why I thought it was important to talk about. So in my roles as an HR leader, certainly we dealt with things such as how somebody behaves at work, how they can aspire to higher positions, maybe somebody who wasn't performing well, and we had to have those conversations. And I would say a fair number of the time, there was something involved in their personal lives that flowed over into their professional lives. And on some occasions, there were situations of domestic violence. So I'm here to talk about it because I think that, all the memes aside, all the jokes aside, this is a serious matter. And so what can we do such that we are stuck in our homes, and we are to stay away from other people, but it doesn't mean that we remain completely detached from our neighbors, our friends, our family, and our coworkers. So one of the things that I think is important to know is why has there been this increase? Well, one thing is that there is a reduced access to resources for people who are suffering through domestic violence. And another reason is because there is a disconnection or a distancing, if you will, of that victim from their support system. In this age of technology, thankfully, we can find different ways to keep connected with people who may feel terribly alone and fear for their safety within the confines of their home. So I'm going to go through a list of different things that we can do as employers, as managers, as leaders, as well as coworkers, so that we can ensure that the people that we may not see every day, not even with a Zoom call, that not even with a phone call, that they know that these resources are out there. So utilize the different ways of working, such as email, such as messaging, even on Facebook. If you're Facebook friends with your coworkers or your boss or your employees, make sure that they get this information. So here are my suggestions. I'm going to go through each one in turn. The first one is to provide a list and local resources for crisis hotlines, shelters, safe space areas for people to access, to call, so that they know that there are these resources out there. You can send it via email, post it on your Facebook wall, put it in LinkedIn, send it via Messenger, different ways of using technology. Maybe do a text message. Sometimes you have to be cryptic about how to pass that information on, but let people know that this information is out there. So bosses, make sure that you send this information out there, even for former employees that you've had to lay off. If you have their personal email information, please let them know that this information is out there. The second one is to promote the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and that number is 1-800-799-7233. And it's also important to note that there is a chat feature using this hotline. So let your employees know, let your coworkers know that this information is out there as well. As a boss, you would also consider using or allowing employees to use additional paid time off, PTO, vacation, so that they can take care of what they need. And there's some states where it is mandated locally that you have to provide leave to employees because of domestic violence reasons. So take a look at your local laws and make sure that you are knowledgeable about them, and be proactive. An employee may not know that these benefits are available to them, so be sure that you educate yourself so that you can provide the assistance that your employees need in their time of need. The fourth one is to encourage coworkers to stay connected. So oftentimes there may be Zoom calls such as this, or conference calls over the telephone, and you're discussing business, and maybe that's all it is, and maybe you think that's all there needs to be. But be sure to reach out to people, let them know that there's other support that's available to them, not just from a professional standpoint, but also a personal standpoint. The fifth one is to provide packages for paid sick leave to support financial independence. A lot of times what we find is that with domestic violence situation, there is a way of shackling people, if you will, into staying in an abusive relationship using financial threats. So be sure that you are able to work out something with your employees. Think about this as being very creative, very innovative. There are no hard and fast rules about this, and really, if you're thinking in terms of being compassionate, I'm sure you'll come up with some really creative ideas to help support your employees and your coworkers. The next is, as an employer, to consider providing additional resources to your employees for things such as legal advice and even legal fees, counseling services, or to cover moving costs for people. So think about different ways that you can do that as well as from an employer standpoint. Now, many companies have, as part of their medical insurance, an EAP plan, and what that stands for is the Employee Assistance Program. Usually the service is completely free to employees, even those that don't have benefits that they've signed up for with you as the employer. A lot of times there are just general people that are answering the phones, and the phone calls are confidential. Not even the bosses know that their employees have called this toll-free number. And what they often do is redirect people to somebody who can provide them with specific care. So if somebody calls up and they're dealing with alcoholism, they'll put them in touch with the appropriate crisis counselor in that area. Well, with domestic violence, chances are they'll put them in touch with a local domestic violence support group, or a hotline, or a shelter, and if nothing else, remember there is that National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is completely free. And then finally, consider you as an employer or as a company to donate to anti-domestic violence charities. This will help show your support and signal to your employees that you put your money where your mouth is, that you walk the talk. So don't just pay lip service to some of these programs, but be sure that you support your employees on an individual basis and on a company-wide basis with regard to donations to specific charities. So that's my talk for today. It's a more serious one, and I hope that you all are safe out there. I hope you're healthy, and until next time, this is Melvine signing out.